Welcome to another Turn 'em Sideways channel video. We've got a deck tech for you once again, this time with Randy. Just had his top 4 at the Dalian Regional Open on Shovel Sivir, and we're going to break down Shovel Sivir today. So Randy, what's up? Let's just kick things right away. Tell me a little bit about why Sivir, why this legend, what kind of drew you towards this?
I think Sivir's pretty fun. I think she's strong, but also fun, and she was unknown. And I kind of gotten to like the deck. I just started liking it, and I built it, and I refined it, and it worked pretty well for me. I didn't feel like I didn't want to switch last minute to Draven. I wasn't sure what I would play. And I just tested Sivir. It felt really good in testing just before the event, so I just took it, and I was like, if I get in on the morning, because I had to know on the morning if I got in, I just take whatever, and Sivir was there, and I was like, let's go.
All right. Well, let's just start it off on the basics, right? What about the legend is conducive towards this style of deck? Like, why this legend? Why the purple Sivir chosen champion?
Yeah. So for the chosen champion first, because we have a clear choice to make, right? You need one or the other. Well, the other one is bad. It's really bad. So we're not playing it. And this one is pretty good. I mean, in Riftbound, I think you like having a champion that's in a turn 2 play. Simply because it makes deck building much easier. You only have to focus on finding a turn 1, if you need one, and then you have your turn 2 already, and you can play a much more explosive deck with like development in turn 3, and that's kind of what I went for, right? I went for little turn 1s. If I see them, that's great. If not, whatever. And then turn 2 Sivir most games. Sometimes Ezreal, but most of the time Sivir. And then try to explode, kind of. That works really well because even though like the Sivir has a power cost, most of the time you just get the gold and you kind of lose one rune for the next turn, but then you kind of get the power back, right? And so that's the idea of the Sivir legend. Whenever you play, you recycle a rune, you just get a gold, so you kind of you pay 1 power, you get 2. So the idea was put as much as a powerful like power cost card in the deck as possible. And the most impactful ones are orange, I think. So Sabotage, Card Challenge, Confront, and Punch First. Like Sabotage, Challenge, and Punch First are the core of the deck in terms of power cost and like strong plays, like winning plays for the deck. And everything else around is just to enable it, right? So you have the Ezreal, which are like designed to dig and fill the grave, gets you access to Rasa, gets you cycling. Then you have the stack deck, the cold shots, and the idea of the deck is really just cycle through everything, make a pile of cards that you know what's coming, and you get into that spot where you can just play it towards whatever you need for the situation. So everything else in this deck is designed around that. You want to dig very fast, cycle through your deck, and then you have access to everything whenever you need it, and you use the deck and the trash as a toolbox. So this deck is centered around a few cards. So Fizz is definitely, me feel like, the bread and butter of the deck, because it allows you to play anything you played previously. And the 2 main cards that we are actually winning with are going to be Challenge and Sabotage. So Sabotage, the idea is, in this current meta, combat is very important. So many people are playing a lot of tricks, specifically Draven, but the decks that are not actually playing the tricks are playing removal. So you want to take it away anyway. So Sabotage doesn't cost us power directly because we get the power back, which is basically the main downside of the card. And we have a deck that generates a lot of card advantage already with Ezreal, with Cold Shot, with Scrap Heap. All this stuff is here to fill your hand, so you don't mind trading 1 for 1. The idea of this deck is really just trade 1 for 1 on repeat with the opponents, and they won't be able to keep up. So you take away the spells, you take away the gears and the interaction with Sabotage. Then you take an aggressive fight with your units because you know you're going to win that fight. You take only fights you win. And you remove stuff with Challenge. And when I get into that position where you have Shovel on the board to resummon Fizz from the trash, or like Rasa, every turn, and you put the opponent on very low amount of cards, and you tell them, okay, you're going to draw your card and you're going to have to play it. If you play it, it's a unit, I will challenge it, using either Fizz or a challenge in my hand, or look for a challenge using my card, because I know where is the next challenge. So I will do that, kill your units, because I mean Rasa plus Shovel is 8, so you basically challenge every single unit in the game right now. And if they don't play it, then you know it's sabotage. You can sabotage it, so you sabotage it, take it away, and they are always done on card. And you kind of put them in that block, and they can't do anything, and you don't have many points at this point, but you don't care because you're going from 2 points to 4 to 6 to 8, and you just win, and they can't do anything.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, right? So you've got your early game, fill the trash, stack the deck using, well, stack deck, called shot, make sure you know exactly where stuff is. And then your end game is to just, you know, use Fizz to recur some of the things that you had earlier, use Shovel to recur the Fizz, and then know exactly where the stuff is in your stack when you use the additional called shots. I think the overall game plan of this deck, you know, yeah, silly, simple, easy. Yeah, we just do that. I wanted to ask you a little bit, though, about when it comes to stacking in this game, if you have any tips and tricks for that, because that is like the core kind of crux of this game plan. I know note-taking is allowed, so of course, you know, you're able to just kind of write down, but especially when the time is kind of crunched, do you specifically have tips and tricks? I know some people do the Mind Palace thing where they can kind of visualize every single card as they go through. Some people have like shorthand or notation. Do you have anything specific you like to do?
I do take notes when I think I have the time, which was like in Top Cut when I was in Dalian. In round I took a few notes, but not that much, honestly. I just didn't feel it was necessary. Do I have a trick to remember cards? No, I don't. I don't know. I have a good memory. I just kind of remember what happened in the game. Like everything that happened, I remember. So I kind of do it this way. It's not perfect. Sometimes at the end of the day, I'm very tired and I completely forget. So either I'm completely forgetting like what happened 2 seconds ago, or I will remember it for the rest of the game. So, and when I take notes, when I just take simple notes, I obviously have short notation. Sabotage is sabo, stack deck is stack. Shovel for the last strike. I didn't even know the name of that card until recently.
That makes sense. No, those are the note-taking tricks are actually really helpful, and it's funny, the memorization technique is vibes, which is it's just great. I do love that, but
It works.
we talked about the overall strategy, and we'll dig into some of the specific cards in a second. But I also want to do I want to talk about the battlefields, because I actually think there's specifically one battlefield that I think everyone has question marks about every single time that it comes up and it's put into play. Because for instance, like we have Zon Warrens. I feel like anybody can look at Zon Warrens and it's pretty obvious. I mean, I'll still have you explain each and every one of them. But the Sigil ends up being the one that I think is the most confusing for a lot of players. But let's talk about all three. Let's talk about what's your game one, what's your, on the play, what's your going second kind of battlefield from there. Yeah, tell me about this battlefield strategy.
Yeah. So what I explain in coaching very often when I introduce people to new decks is you have some constant in rebound compared to other games. For example, in Yu-Gi-Oh, you have no constant. Like your deck is your deck, and it's always gonna be random. You have no champion, you have no legend, you have nothing, no battlefield. When you play One Piece, you have a leader, and that's kind of it, and a number of life, I guess. I don't know about Flesh and Blood, but I know you have like a legend and I think a signature like thing as well. That's
what you have
board at the start.
A bunch of equipment that starts in play.
Oh yeah, equipment. Okay. That's kind of the idea. So some decks have constant, and there's the main way you control the flow of your game, so you need to play around those. I explained deck building. I was playing almost no turn 2 plays because I don't need a one. I have one every single time. Battlefields are a very central piece of your deck, more so in this deck than some other decks like don't threaten them as heavily. But in this deck, I think they have specific goals that they achieve for specific games. So obviously, Zone Warrens for game 1, you fill the trash really fast. This deck wants to cycle. That's really good. We don't have that many units though, so we don't activate it that often, but sometimes you just need one trigger to get that card that's like deeper. I think this Sivir deck is really, you know the meme with the guy like it's a pickaxe trying to find the diamonds? And I think this Sivir deck is really that deck. It's like you're stuck, and you need to get to that one card when you get going, and then it's like you cycle everything in one turn. And so Zone Warrens kind of helps you get there, even though you don't really fight aggressively with this deck, you still get this one or two extra cards deep that help you like get going. Also, I think it's very important game 1 to have Zone Warrens because you have the Merchant, which are pretty dead post turn 1, the Troll, which are pretty dead post turn 1, and you have the Scrap Heaps. So you need to get rid of those like dead cards. Then when we go first, we play Sigil of the Storm. I want Sigil of the Storm because I'm going first. I can always go on the other battlefield. So either my opponents are gonna have to fight me on the other battlefield, or they're gonna have to go to Sigil and and kind of lose the rune. On top of that, if I end up going to Sigil and lose the rune, what's very unique is Sivir stands back up when you kill a unit, when an opponent's unit die. So if you trade aggressively on the Sigil, even if the Sivir legend was already used during the turn, she will stand back up and then trigger again to put a gold after you recycle. So you always kind of get the rune back from Sigil, so you don't really care about it as much, while the opponent can't really play as aggressively as they want. While this deck doesn't really do much turn 1, it's always just Merchant of Trove or nothing, maybe stack deck. Turn 2, you just play the Sivir, so you don't really do anything either. And then turn 3, you start to get going, but it's not very aggressive either. So this deck really needs to go to the long game. The longer the game goes, the better it is, because we scale infinitely. You have infinite resources, you recycle your stuff. Your card scales very well because Rasa gets free and you can play multiple a turn with Star Strike. You have many ways to accelerate every unit with Confront and On the Hunt. You have access to a very strong toolbox. You have Sabotage, so you don't mind the long game because you can take away the opponent's options. So Sigil, just in many situations, you just don't fight, and the opponent looks at Sigil and they're like, I don't even know if I want to get this second point in my turn. Like, that doesn't even look good. Because this guy against me is like taking away some of my options, and I also get like less runes. So you're able to break the opponent's hand and what they're trying to do. And on top of that, you tell them, go get less runes. Like, you limit their options so much with Sigil that it makes a lot of sense in the deck. It just slows down the game a lot. Draven specifically has, and Irelia both have big runes problem when they start going to Sigil Lord. These decks have a lot of mid-game plays that cost runes that they want to do, and if they have to play this 1 extra rune, maybe 2 extra runes per game, they're going to struggle a lot. Also, we're in a meta where a lot of people make gold, and Sigil just say, I don't care about your gold. You will recycle the runes. There's no paying power here. It's just a roll. It's maybe the best battlefield in the deck. I think the worst one, weirdly enough, is Zone. Just because we have so little units that we don't actually trigger Zone that much.
Yeah, it does make sense. I mean, you're playing basically just Merchant as your 2-drop, so if you have a Trove early game, you're just not using the Warrens, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. And late game, of course, as you said, right, you might still find a heap, or you can cycle a useless card, but yeah, you're triggering it like 3 times a game, something like that, maybe. And often those like last few triggers don't even matter.
Yeah, and also if you play Merchants, like, you just mulligan your hand. So your hand is usually a pretty high density of good cards because you selected the ones you wanted to keep. So you can end up playing this Merchant having to discard 2 cards in the best case scenarios. And it's sometimes a difficult choice because you don't really want to discard a lot of them. Like Last Rite, you can't really discard. A Cold Shot, you don't really want to discard. Stack Deck, you're probably activating anyway, so it doesn't matter. But Scrap Heap, you do want to discard, but you don't always have it. Also, you're going to play Ezreal and discard it anyway. You can discard Ezreal because you want to play it. You could discard Fizz, which is fine. Challenge, usually you want to play at least one. You don't want to discard all of them. Sabotage, you want to play as well. Rasa, you don't mind discarding. It's pretty good discard. Fight or Flight, you don't want to discard because you can't really recover them. Seals either. And Trove, I mean, if you're early game, you probably want to play the Trove rather than the discard them. So this deck doesn't have that good discard targets early when your hand is like pretty slim and your options are still limited. So the 2 discard for Merchant and Zone are often just like not ideal.
This is when you are going second, right? Because you said Sigil going first and then Wisp is going second.
So, I mean, it's just this deck likes to scale. You get more runes, so you side out all the Merchants, you side out the Scrap Heap. So you lower the density of like low value card in your deck, and you just play Obelisk, and you can Sivir turn 1, and that's pretty dangerous for the opponent. Like Sivir on turn 2 is always going to be 6, and that's kind of a dissuasive measure, right? You just put the Sivir down and tell them, okay, either you spend half of your turn like removing it with spells, like Morning Star maybe, and I'm kind of happy about that. I mean, that's not ideal for me, but it's like alright, because if Draven recycles 2 to kill it, it's fine. Or you just let it leave, and then she's gonna be very threatening on the next turn, because if you use all your runes for development, then they can probably fight you with Punch first, or with Rebuke, or with Fight or Flight, or even like Sabotage and just go in. So you kind of have to keep some runes up, but in that case, like, I have Sabotage as well, which hurts. And if you just don't go on battlefield and only develop, then I'm very happy with the situation. So it's like, it's the only bad case scenario is you play against maybe Ezreal and they go like repeat, what's it called? Repeat Billows, like 3D touch, so they draw card as well and kill it. That's not ideal because they scale well. And Kaisa, which can Falling Star for just one rune, so it's like not ideal. But every other case is pretty good.
One of the things that I think is always a struggle for players when playing Shovel, when playing Lost Rites, is like figuring out what they're supposed to recycle for decks.
Yeah, I usually try to not take too long about it because it rarely matters. So what I do is I usually send, I want to keep like the important spells, you want to keep like at least one for Fizz. So I will never recycle my one Sabotage, my one Challenge, my one Confront, my one Stack Deck or one Cold Shot. But what happens, you often want to recycle Stack Deck or Cold Shot. Like that's what I just do. And like worst case scenario, I'll be able to dig deeper and keep cycling. So it's never bad. And then if you a few cards that are interesting to recycle is Rebuke, because you just want either one Rebuke or one Fight or Flight in trash for Fizz late game, but you don't need more than one. So I like recycling Rebuke because of Fight or Flight, just to have one off in the deck, so that if in the late game I need to find it, I can always dig with Fizz, because Fight or Flight specifically you want one in the deck, because late game you have the options to go Shovel, bring back Fizz, Cold Shot, dig once or twice, and then you find the one Fight or Flight and you hide it, and that's pretty scary for the opponents.
That's a nice, like, easy kind of, you know, way to think about your Shovel recycles each time, especially if you're not going deeper. Because I think with anything in a game like this, some of this is going to be contextual to the exact spot you're in, but that does feel like pretty safe kind of rules, like don't over recycle specific things, try and keep your one-ups for Fizz. I just speaking further on one-ups, we have the Confronts, which has your units enter ready. That's not a one-up, but the On the Hunt. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about On the Hunt and like what are the big use cases that you're looking for this? Is it more pivoting? Is it the fact that you can still treat it as third copy of Confront if you really need to? Is it still something that you're looking at maybe playing off of Fizz? Like what are some of the goals with the one of On the Hunt or ideas behind it?
So there are two main reasons, maybe three, for On the Hunt being in the deck. It's clearly worse than Confront in many cases, but it's necessary. That's the main reason, right? Sometimes you don't like a card, but you have to play it. I think the only card that's in that category for this deck is On the Hunt. If you don't have it in your deck, some situations become very, very annoying. Like in the late game, when the opponent has... Very often this deck let the opponent score early and they go to 6, maybe 7 points even. And you have to prevent them from winning. And right now in the meta, if you think about it, Irelia specifically, other decks as well, like Kaisa as well, or Ezreal, really want to have really easy time breaking middle-sized battlefield. Like if you have just like 10, 15, it's very easy for them to kill you. So you need to fully stack on one side against those decks. And because you have to do that, what they're going to end up doing is stacking the other side, right? And trying to win off this. And if you don't play Confront, then you have to use Fight or Flight. And if you used it early, then you can't use it because it gets more annoying. Also, against Ezreal specifically, or Draven, if they try to stack Fight or Flying one unit, and pushing is never enough because they can push you as well. That's a big issue. And On the Hunt kind of fixes that. Right? It says, okay, I can always stack one battlefield with a lot of units, which is very easy to do because you go last right, like Shovel into Rasa, and you conquer, and you play another Rasa from trash, and that's 14 might already. And you put a few small units, maybe another Rasa with them, and that's like 25 might very easily in this deck. But you also can't really split this might, because if you didn't use Confront on that specific turn, the second Rasa you summon needs to be on this battlefield, because you very rarely at this point control both. And the next reason, and maybe the better reason to run it, when I could have probably found a solution for the other issue. The best way to win at card games is to make the opponent do what you want them to do. You kind of force their hand in a position where you always have the out. And I think this deck is very good at doing so because you have Sabotage, you have Challenge, but you have On the Hunt. So as I said, when you look at the opponent and you hide Fight or Flight on your battlefield and you have 20 mites and they have 6 points or 7 points and a bunch of creatures in base and not many options in hand because you took those options away, well, most of the times their only real option is stacking on the open battlefield. So they will have to do it, and it's a correct play, right? Yep. It's not about them not knowing that On the Hunt exists, it's just like they have to do it anyway.
I want to talk about the sideboard a little bit, right? Like, we've got some pretty interesting cards in this sideboard that maybe people would not expect. And I wanted to ask, kind of going down through each of them, talking about maybe what situations you would want to bring them in. And then maybe actually it's even better for us to start with, like, what are the cards that are generally coming out on Sigil and coming out on Obelisk? Because you mentioned on Obelisk, often the merchants, right, that are going to come out, the scrap heaps.
Obelisk always merchant is out, and one scrap heap. I just think they're kind of breaky and they don't help you that much, so out of here. And then there isn't anything else I really wanna take out, right? Most of the time I'm gonna stick to moving those 4 cards out and putting all the random cards like that I need in. Sometimes I will do some small adaptation, but it's very rare because this deck is very optimized to function in a certain way. It's a combo deck, so you can't really take any of the combo pieces away, otherwise your deck just doesn't work. Then you lose consistency. Other ones I sometimes move out. Fight or Flight, maybe one of comes out of the deck. Rebuke, sometimes it's very useless. And On the Hunt can sometimes be... if I really don't know what to do, I will bring out one of the Hunt and I'm like, I'm gonna play or I'm not having it. I'm a vibe player. I don't really do sideboard plan. I adapt a lot to how my opponent played, to their deck, and to my game plan. And yeah, so now for the sideboard cards, I guess. Cannon Barrage is probably one of the weirdest ones, and we have Unyielding and Windrunner, I guess in orange, on the left. Windrunner is don't play it. It's really bad. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but
no, it's fine. You know what's really funny about this, Randy, though? You say this on your streamed game. You brought in the Ruin Runner and see it in a search and sent it immediately. It was either see in the search or in the mulligan and sent it to the bottom. And on the co-stream, we're like...
probably not mulligan.
Yeah, it was one of the two, but we were sitting there like, you know, if you sided in Ruin Runner and you're putting it to the bottom of the deck, you probably should just cut the card.
It's in theory it's good. It's like you have it on Obelisk and you go, like the thing is on turn 2 on Obelisk it's so good. But yeah, actually just like it's so bad. It's like it's never good. Like also with the Shovel, in theory it's really good. You have Windrunner and you play it and they can't get rid of it and it's very sticky. I don't know, it didn't work for me. 6 is just not a good number for us. Unyielding and Cannon Barrage. Unyielding is just very necessary for the deck. Like you always find it, so it's pretty good. You always find at least one and probably the second one for later. So put Unyielding in, and it's good into Kaisa, it's good into Ezreal, it's good into Victor. All those decks, it just gives you a lot of percentages. And Cannon Barrage is for Draven. You kill the fan, and specifically for Miracle Draven. I wasn't sure if I was gonna face any. I faced like 1 or 2, I think. You just put this, and if you see it, you just push with like 2 Rasa and Cannon Barrage, and everything dies. It deals like so much damage in AoE. And then you also get these small chances of like them having the fan and you just push and you kill everything because they fan when they don't have the hidden card. Which happened in, for example, my top 8. I think game 3 in my top 8, I won on turn 2 because I just played Sivir. They played Fan and Draven on River's Row. I pushed in, they went Fan. Not on River's Row, on another BF. I pushed in. I went Sabotage. So I took away whatever answers I had with the 2 runes from Targon. I pushed in, and they went Fan, and I went Cannon Barrage, and they lost everything. It's not a great card, though. I don't know if I want to keep it in the sideboard, but...
we did see some Token Victor in China. Like, would you bring this card into the matchup, or do you not think it's good enough? Like, it's more just the fan counter.
I probably could bring one, or maybe... Yeah, I probably would remove Rebuke and one Scrappy for them, because...
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just curious, like, if the card felt good enough to make the cut into, like, a token deck where, you know, as, like, you're not bringing it into the deck to target token decks, but it just, like, happens to exist there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would be able to use it, I think, in that case, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Action was fantastic. Action is fantastic. I played against MF Aura on round 4. And I'm like, okay, I had, like, 6 or 7 runes, and I'm like, I need to find Action. I had, like, 15 cards in my deck. One of them is Action. I'm going to find it. I'm going to play it. I'm going to steal Aura. Perfect. And I also think it's just generally a strong card because you can just play it. Worst case scenario, 4/4 is pretty good. And I realize that if you Sabotage and you see Water Angel, you can always keep it to steal this. And otherwise, you just slam it like I did, I think, in the feature match. I went Sabotage, no equips, while I just play Action, whatever. It's a unit. Hard Bargain is just good, I think, in general. It's like you have decks against which there are good application for it. You never want to see more than one, though. Like, it's pretty dead post... at some points, it becomes very dead as a card, so you don't love it. But in many spots, you can force the opponent, once again, Sabotage, take away whatever they could have as option, then you put them in a spot where they have to take a specific line, and you keep Hard Bargain as an out, and you win. That's kind of the way this deck plays. Great in the game plan, but you just did one. And done well was in case I faced a Norn. I faced a random deck I would need done well into. I don't even know what the deck would be, but I was like struggling to find side deck spots, and I was like, this would save me like if I face Orn or Azir or a random deck that I needed against.
That makes a ton of sense. I think that the sideboard is solid. I know you mentioned that there's some cards that you would potentially change out. Are there any specific cards that you felt like you wanted that maybe you could have added? Or are you still like, well, I got to go into the lab and try and find some more spots to fill these sideboard slots that you don't like?
I want Surl Unyielding for sure instead of Rinrunner. I think it's just better. Especially after Kaisa winning and people being on Kaisa in the West, I think more because they had the deck from set 1. I'm expecting like more than they should be. I think people are overestimating Kaisa a bit, so I want to prepare for that. I think Surl Unyielding is going to be better than Rinrunner, most likely. I would probably just change that, and maybe I could see Invert Timeline being good into Ezreal, into Kaisa as well. I mean, Cannon Barrage hasn't been bad for me. It's like, is this, once again, that's a card I wouldn't want to cut, but I'm like, when I had it, it wasn't great, but I ended up winning those games anyway. So maybe it's just like, and 1 or 2 games I used it and it was great. And other ones it was shit, but I ended up winning those games anyway, right? If you have a card in your deck and it's a liability, but you still win, and sometimes it pops off, sometimes it's worth playing, right? Because you need those cards that are like blowouts in some spot, and I think it's one of them. So I don't know what I would cut, but I would remove this Rinrunner for this.
Yeah.
For the Surl Unyielding.
Feels like there's a little bit more lenience in a deck like this, though, too, because you are drawing the entire deck and you have a lot of card selection. So something like Cannon Barrage, even if it is bad in some spots, you can just discard it to Ezreal, or you can just not pick it in your search, which is, you know, annoying. You don't want that to be the case for a tech card that you're bringing in specifically, but it is like technically something that's true of this deck, is you are kind of able to just get rid of it if it's not going to be good in this spot.
Yeah. So the main issue though is Cannon Barrage that's kind of the issue. Is like, in theory that's okay. In practice, Cannon Barrage is only very, very good and very impactful on turn 2 or 3 during those first showdowns. It's very good late game sometimes. It's very bad in the mid game. In the mid game, you never want to use it because it's kind of expensive, and in those terms, it's less impactful because usually you're able to set up a different way of winning the showdowns, or you just don't want to take them anyway. And very late, you can take some very aggressive good trade with Cannon Barrage. You go in with a Shovel attached to the Cannon Barrage on a 3 units battlefield, and Shovel plus Cannon Barrage alone are like 8 damage by themselves. So even if Feast deals 11 and can probably trade into 2 units, and then you attach a Shovel again and you keep going. So that's good, and in the early game you just kill, like, you just go into a battlefield with like 2 units into Draven and you just trade, and that's just good. Because when you trade with a deck that wants to go the distance, wants to go 1-for-1, that's perfect, right? Everything we're gonna do.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I wanted to ask, because I think we've covered pretty much everything here. Are there any final thoughts, final notes, final tips that you would want to give about this Sivir deck and playing this Sivir deck before we end? Because I think we've really covered a lot. I think if anybody saw this video, I feel like I could pick up the deck right now and at least give it an attempt. It's a hard deck to play, it's a hard deck to pilot, but at least I feel like I'm equipped to try it out.
I think this Sivir deck is good. I do think, even though it's I think it's a very interesting deck. I think that's probably the first deck that's fully revolving around stacking in Riftbound. I think even the other Miracle decks are just not trying to do that. They're just trying to put a bunch of might. I think if you want to play this deck and have success with it, you need to be very calculated in your choices and think about limiting the opponent's options. I think people have been very surprised at what I'm taking from the deck. You need to focus on cycling, so very often you're going to leave let some very good cards go and put them at the bottom, because you need to focus on keeping that cycle going. If you stop, you get stuck, and it's very hard to get back on track, because you don't really draw, because you usually use your draw card early and then you use your cycle, and then unless you top deck, it's pretty bad. And you want the opponents to have less options, so very often they're gonna show you their hand, and they're gonna have like maybe discipline and like into area and like very good cards around and everything you don't want them to play, but you have to take the discipline anyway. You have to take the stack deck, you have to take those cards. Maybe sometimes you have to take a confront. Like, you just need to keep information in your head, because this deck plays on a very fine line, and you need to take very calculated risks. You don't want to play risky with this deck. You want to play very safe, and you want to play very slow and trade 1-for-1 and limit the opponent's options. I think those are the main things I would say you should try to do.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Randy, for coming on this video and telling us all about the Sivir deck. Is there anything you want to plug before we go? Metafy, whatever.
I check off my Metafy, and maybe I'm making the Sivir guide. I think it should be out around the time this video comes out, so if you wanna check it out. I will be explaining every card in detail, and you can click and get it for free anyway. You can just look at the detailed card explanations for free, maybe some other stuff as well. I don't know exactly, but yeah, feel free to check it out. Should be good. Should give you everything I hid in this video and didn't tell.
All right. Thank you so much, Randy. If you enjoyed this video, please comment down below what other decks, other people you'd like to see come on and talk about their decks. And please remember to subscribe to the channel, and we'll have all Randy's links in the description below. But thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.